What's going on, everybody? It's Cooper from the Back Pins. Today, we're going to continue with our team preview series for the PBR team series that starts up this July. And we're going to talk to Nashville Stampede. They had the second overall pick. That's the order we're going to go with. And I'm excited to talk about it. I think they did some interesting things in the draft and with their free agent signings. I'm really excited to talk about their free agents that they've signed. And I think it's going to be a great time. So we'll quit messing around. Let's grab them slides. Let's talk Nashville Stampede. To kick things off, let's just start with they're led by Justin McBride, two-time PBR world champ, legend of the game. And with their original draft picks, like I mentioned, they had the second overall pick. They went with Kaique Pacheco. At 15 overall, they went with Denner Barbosa. At 18 overall, Ryan Dirt Eater. He came out of retirement for the team series. I'm excited to see Dirt Eater back in the arena. At 31st overall, Manolito de Souza Jr. And at 34th overall, Joao Lucas. So those were the original 5 draft picks for the Nashville Stampede. They also went ahead and signed Matt Triplett, Dustin Ortiz, Tiago Salgado, Jackson Mortensen, Mason Moody, and Aaron Williams in free agency. So let's take a deeper dive into the roster that the Nashville Stampede has constructed. With the second overall pick, their first round selection, Justin McBride and the Nashville Stampede selected Kaique Pacheco. He's a right-handed bull rider, placed second in the world in 2022. Him and Dalen Swearengin had a battle down there in Fort Worth. He had a 55% riding percentage in 2022, and his top ride of the season came on Pookie Holler, 92 3/4. There's a reason they call this guy the Iceman. He's as steady as a rock. You are not going to rattle this guy. And on top of that, mechanically, he can ride any kind of bull. Into his hand, away from his hand, out there a bit, hard to track. It does not matter with this guy. Solid pick. I expected him to go high. I didn't know exactly where he was going to fall. But if you kind of follow the broadcasts on TV, McBride speaks really highly of Kaique. So I kind of had an inkling that he would take him. And if you watched my mock draft that I did, I had predicted this pick. I think this is a really solid pick for the Stampede. Not only are you getting a guy that can ride any type of bull, but that locker room presence. He's never going to show nervousness or anything like that. And that rubs off on guys in a locker room. If you've ever played team sports, there's always that guy on the team that everybody's kind of looking at. And if he's not worried, well, I'm not going to be worried either. That's what this guy is. He's a leader. He's talented. He's got everything going for him. This was a great pick by the Stampede based on all those reasons. And I'm not shocked that McBride took Pacheco. With the Stampede's second round pick at 15 overall, they took Denner Barbosa. Denner's a left-handed bull rider, finished 12th in the world in 2022, had a 45% riding percentage, and his top ride came at the finals, actually, 92 points on Flapjack of the Pages. Another solid pick from the Stampede. You go get a right-handed stud in Kaique with your first pick, and you come back with your second round pick and get a left-handed stud in Denner Barbosa. This guy can handle bulls that do a little bit of everything. He's not restricted to going one way, in my opinion. He's obviously a little stronger into his hand, but he can get it done going either way. And you notice there's a little bit of a Brazilian connection here. And I think that's really good for a locker room. These guys all get along. Like, they're kind of one big family. Like, if you follow their outside of the arena lifestyle, a lot of them kind of live in an isolated area and they do a lot of things together. And the one thing I'll say, just talking to different stock contractors that have brought bulls down to, like, say, Jose Vitor Leme's place, or they've gone to their place to get on bulls, is when these guys show up to ride in the practice pen, they don't just get on one or two. They're getting on a whole bunch of them. They're not afraid to get on 6, 7, 8 head in a day. And I'm not saying they do that every day, but when they feel like they need to, they will get on as many as they feel like they have to. So when you're looking at it from a coach's perspective, you know these guys are over here for one thing, and that one thing is to win as much money as possible. I think this is a really great start for the Stampede, and I really like what they did with their top 2 picks. With their third round selection at 18 overall, McBride and the Stampede took a guy that has been retired for a little while, Ryan Dirt Eater. He's a left-handed bull rider, His career best world placing was fourth in 2016, has a career riding percentage of 42%, and his career best score 93 and a quarter points on Bruiser back in 2018. This is a guy I'm excited to see back. He's been retired out of the game for a couple years, but obviously he's motivated. And sometimes that happens with these guys. They sit at home and they start craving it again. And when you're going week in, week out, it can kind of drain a guy a little bit. But getting back home, it can motivate you. It can remotivate you and really make you realize how much you miss riding bulls. And with this kind of an opportunity for Ryan Dirt Eater, he's not having to go to 35 events in a year. He's only going to have to go to roughly a dozen or so. I can't remember the exact number on team events, but it's right around there. So for him, from an older rider's perspective, he can kind of take care of his body a little bit better. There's not going to be the constant wear and tear that these guys had to go through from January through May to make the PBR finals. So it's good from a health standpoint. But let's talk about a veteran presence. My goodness, this guy was a big name on tour for a long time. He rode really well too. I expect Ryan to come back and look in shape. I've heard that he's in excellent shape, better shape than he was when he retired. And when a guy's feeling hungry, he's feeling good physically. You add in that veteran presence, I think Ryan Dirt Eater is going to do nothing but good things for the Nashville Stampede. With their fourth round selection, at 31 overall, the Stampede took Manolito de Souza Jr. He's a left-handed bull rider, finished 20th in the world in 2022, had a 37% riding percentage. His top ride of 2022, 93 and a half on Blue Duck. Manolito's a guy that is really tough into his hand. If they go to the left, this guy is going to chew him up, spit him out, and sling some spurs at him. He can struggle a little bit away from his hand, but that's where the importance of team balance comes in. You got to have enough left-handed guys to handle bulls that go left predominantly. And you also got to have enough guys that are right-handed that can handle ones that go to the right most of the time. Now, that's not saying a bull's going to do that every time, but these bulls do have patterns, a lot of them. And for me, this guy, when you look at a left-handed specialist, he's just not going to buck off very many of them. This guy also rode Whoopah in 2022 for an event win. So it's not like Blue Duck's the only bad one that he stomped. He stomped some really ranked bulls that go into his hand. Through 4 picks, 3 of their guys are Brazilians. And when you're talking a locker room atmosphere, I guess, lack of a better term, when you already have a relationship that's close and then you start competing with somebody, it only strengthens that relationship and it helps you guys on the playing field. Once again, lack of a better term. So I think this is a smart move from the Stampede, in my opinion. I just think their locker room presence with all these Brazilians in there is going to pay dividends. These guys are already really tight. So it's not like you have to go out and have a bunch of team bonding experiences as you would when you take a bunch of random guys that don't really know each other that much. So if I'm McBride, I'm going to put Manolito on bulls that I think locked and loaded are going to go to the left, stay to the left. And this guy's going to take you guys to the promised land. You get him one that stays into his hand. He is not going to buck off very often. Another really solid pick by the Stampede, in my opinion. With their 5th round pick at 34 overall, the Nashville Stampede took Joao Lucas. He's a right-handed bull rider, placed 25th in the world in 2022, had a 26% riding percentage, and his top ride of 2022 came at the World Finals as well, 91 and a quarter on the Undertaker. And if you pay attention to the bulls that go to a lot of PBR events, the Undertaker is one that a lot of guys don't get along with. He doesn't get rode very often. So this guy can handle some ranked bulls. Now, the flip side of that, he's kind of like a right-handed version of Manolito. He doesn't get along with bulls that go away from his hand that often, but that's where coaching comes in. If I'm a coach, I'm not going to put this guy on a bull that I think is going to go to the left. I'm going to put him on one that's going to go into his hand, and he's going to eat him up. That seems to be the formula the Stampede went with. On top of being Brazil heavy with their original draft picks, they have 3 lefties and 2 righties, and that balance is going to be crucial. And I think they did a really good job of filling out a squad. And you do have a guy in Pacheco that can handle bulls going either way. Dirt Eater, he's no slouch going either way either. But they threw in a couple specialists in there, and that's okay because out of 5 bulls, there probably is going to be one that's a pattern bucker to the left or to the right. And that's what they're probably going to do with Manolito and Joao. So I think when you look at it as a whole, it's not as sexy to have guys that you're just going to say, well, they're a left or right-handed specialist. But at the end of the day, there's a place for it in this team series. I think the Stampede did a really good job with their draft picks. Not only do I like what they did with their draft picks, but I really am excited to talk about some of these free agent signings as well. Matt Triplett, Dustin Ortiz, Tiago Salgado, Jackson Mortensen, Mason Moody, and Aaron Williams. Let's just talk about some of these guys. We'll start at the top. Matt Triplett, right-handed bull rider, placed 33rd in the world in 2022, 8 times of the PBR finals. This guy is a veteran of the game. He knows what it takes to be successful at this level, and he's going to help some of these younger guys down below on that list, like a Jackson Mortensen or Mason Moody. He lives in South Dakota now. Mason Moody's from South Dakota, so I know they have a relationship as well. So that's going to help bring that locker room presence together. Like I mentioned before, previous relationships, it only helps. Let's talk about Dustin Ortiz. Going to be honest with you guys, I don't know a ton about his bull riding career, but I can tell you he's a 14-fight UFC veteran. He was an MMA fighter before he started riding bulls. And if you know anything about MMA, I would argue that it's probably one of the toughest sports somebody can do. I wrestled in high school, and that's only a fraction of what MMA is. And I can assure you it's challenging. It wears on a guy mentally. And also from a physical training standpoint, this guy has had to train extremely hard during his MMA career. And I would imagine they're going to pick his brain on different training techniques he uses and has brought over from the MMA side of things. So I think physically this guy is going to help the locker room out a ton. Tiago Salgado, left-handed bull rider. He finished 38th in the world in 2021. Sat out, had a surgery this offseason, so he did not compete in the individual season in 2022. But this guy was really finding his stride last year towards the end of the year. He's a little bitty guy. He's an exciting guy to watch. I'm excited to see Tiago back in the arena. But let's talk about this next free agent signing that they have. Jackson Mortensen, right-handed bull rider. He placed 113th in the world in 2022. Do not let that number fool you. This guy just turned 18 not that long ago. I think it was April. Goes to a touring pro event, steps out and wins it. This guy is ultra talented, and we talk about bloodlines with buck and bulls quite a bit, but let's talk about human bloodlines. This guy's grandpa is in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. He was a world champion in pro rodeo back in the 60s and 70s. His brother also got drafted, and this guy's dad, Judd, was a multiple-time PBR finals qualifier. You want to talk about some genetics there. This guy was destined to do this. And if you haven't seen videos of this guy riding, I encourage you to go check out his social media. This young guy can stick it on some ranked bulls. Mason Moody, left-handed bull rider, finished 92nd in the world in 2022. South Dakota native. And I do know just from poking around on social media a little bit, him and Matt Triplett have a relationship. He kind of looks up to Matt. And I think that's going to be nothing but good for this team. Talented guy. He's also young. I believe he's only 18. I think he just graduated high school, if I'm not mistaken. So nothing but room for growth with this guy, and the sky's the limit, in my opinion. And they rounded out with Aaron Williams, a right-handed bull rider, finished 105th in the world in 2022. So these guys did some interesting things with their free agent signings, in my opinion. Went out and grabbed some veterans and even went into other sports. I mean, I know Ortiz has been riding bulls for a while if he's going to declare for the draft, but just that presence of being a UFC competitor, he's going to bring a different angle to this deal than probably anybody else can. And you mix that in with some young guys with some serious potential and talent. I think the Stampede threw together a pretty dang good roster, and I'm excited to see it unfold in the arena come July. But I think that'll about wrap this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed this team preview of the Nashville Stampede. And if you haven't already, go check out our preview of the Austin Gamblers as well. All these team preview videos are going to go under the same playlist if you go to our channel. So hopefully it's easy for you guys to find. I will link all of our social medias in the description below from the Backpens and Rank Rat as well. And it will also be on the ending screen of this video. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And like always, feel free to give us any sort of feedback about content you'd want to see, what we can improve to make this better for you guys as viewers, because that's the whole point of this. We want to give you guys content that you want to see. So give us feedback. Leave a comment below if you think the Nashville Stampede did a good job or a bad job, or what you think they should have done differently. And until next time, you guys have a great one. and come back and visit us again from the back pins.